All right, guys. So everything we've talked about so far has been aerobic respiration, aerobic respiration, aerobic respiration. But now we're going to talk about the other kind of respiration, anaerobic. This means no oxygen. No oxygen needed. Can you do anaerobic respiration? Yes. But is this something you're going to do very much of? No. Because it turns out it's not very efficient. How many ATPs did we say we can make from aerobic respiration per glucose? 36, even sometimes 38. But it turns out anaerobic, we only get 2. So we get 36 or 38 from aerobic and 2 from anaerobic. So this is really, really wasteful. The only time we're going to do this is when oxygen is very, 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 very low in your muscles. When you just don't have enough oxygen to do aerobic. But there are some things that this is all they do. And mostly it's really, really small organisms that don't need a lot of energy. There are some bacteria, they only do anaerobic respiration. There are some yeast, for example, like the yeast we make bread and wine and stuff out of. They only do this. The reason they can get by with only doing this is they don't need very much energy. They can get by with 2 ATPs for glucose. We can't. If we tried to do this alone, we would run out of ATP very, very, very fast. And what's the result of running out of ATP? Death. Okay? We can't do this on our own. We got to do more than this. Most organisms, though, can also do anaerobic respiration to supplement their aerobic. But most things depend on aerobic. In anaerobic respiration, there's 2 steps instead of 3. The first step is still the same. Step number 1 of anaerobic respiration is still glycolysis. It's the same exact glycolysis we talked about before. Happens in the same place, which is where? Cytoplasm. And it makes 3 products, just like it did in aerobic respiration. The glucose gets split. We make a little bit of, we make 2 molecules of pyruvate. We make 2 molecules of NADH and a little bit of ATP. We make 4, but we had to use 2 to get there, right? So we net 2 ATPs. And that's it. Step number 2 is fermentation. And it's the fermentation you've heard of before. Fermentation makes beer and stuff, alcohol. The purpose of fermentation, though, is not to make any energy. The fermentation step of anaerobic respiration makes 0 ATPs. Its job is just to keep glycolysis moving. In the video we just watched a minute ago, he talked about that fermentation's job is just to keep glycolysis going. Here's why. Your body has only so much NAD+. In glycolysis, what happens to NAD+? It gets reduced to make what? NAD+ is reduced to make NADH. Eventually, this all gets used up. Now, in aerobic respiration, we don't have to worry about that. Because in aerobic respiration, when does NADH get turned back into NAD+? In electron transport, right? The last part. It gets oxidized back to NAD+. So we're constantly remaking this. But in anaerobic respiration, it becomes a problem because we could run out of NAD+. Fermentation's job is to take NADH and oxidize it back into NAD+, so that glycolysis can keep going. There's a lot of different kinds of fermentation, but there's 2 that you hear a lot about. The most famous one is alcoholic fermentation. In alcoholic fermentation, cells take NADH and pyruvate and react those together. The NADH gets oxidized, therefore the pyruvate must be getting reduced, and we make in alcoholic fermentation 3 main products. NAD+. That's what we're going for. That's the purpose of doing alcoholic fermentation. But the waste products are 2 waste products. CO2 and alcoholic fermentation. Ethanol, which is like drinking alcohol. And I'm going to ignore that phone, don't worry about it. So we make three things. NAD+, that's the purpose of alcoholic fermentation. CO2 is a waste product. And ethanol is another waste product. Why is ethanol so flammable? Ethanol is really, really, really flammable because why? It's got a lot of energy. Because most of the energy that was in the glucose is now in the ethanol. People who drink a lot of beer get fat. And the reason they get fat is that that's got a lot of energy in it. It's fattening. Alcohol has a lot of calories. They get the beer gut. Right. There are some studies with alcohol that show that, like wine, for example, can be good for you, like red wine. But there's some serious debate about if it's the alcohol that's good for you, or if it's the grape juice that's good for you. Okay, and a lot of scientists think it doesn't have much to do with the alcohol. It's the stuff in the grapes that's actually good for you. So not so much beer. I haven't seen any studies that a beer a day is good for you. I've seen studies that a cup of wine a day is good for you. Hold up, we're recording this, guys, so we gotta listen. But there's a lot of people that think it's more the grapes than it is the alcohol. But that's debatable. I'll get your question about that in just a minute. Let me finish this up first, guys. All right, so back to this. Alcoholic fermentation takes NADH, reacts it with the pyruvate to make three things. NAD plus is what we need to make because we've got to have that to do glycolysis. The two waste products are CO2 and ethanol. The other kind of fermentation that you might have heard of before is called lactic acid fermentation. This is the kind of fermentation we do. We take NADH plus pyruvate, just like the yeast and the bacteria may do. But it would be kind of strange if we made alcohol in our bodies, right? You could exercise and get intoxicated. That wouldn't be a good thing, okay? So here's what we do. Yeah, that's true. Different way, though. We can, okay, I don't know. Yeah, I do. Shorty wants to say. Mr. Shorty. All right, so we got NADH plus pyruvate. Now you just go ahead. And this mostly, fermentation in us would mostly happen where? What part of your body? Your muscles. That's where we're running out of oxygen. So this is happening in your muscles. The purpose for doing fermentation is to make NAD plus so that glycolysis can continue. In our bodies, we don't give off CO2 and ethanol during fermentation. We give off another chemical called lactate, or sometimes called lactic acid. And the key word, acid. When this stuff builds up in your muscles, if you've really, really worked out hard, what do your muscles feel like? They feel really, really sore because this stuff isn't acid. It burns your muscles. It makes you be sore. If you're in really, really bad shape, how much of this are you going to make if you just decide tomorrow you're going to start working out? You're going to make a lot, okay? And the next day you're going to wake up and you're not going to be able to move, okay? And it's going to take a few days to get rid of because eventually, what's your body going to do to this lactic acid? It's going to do a little funny chemistry on it, and it's going to convert it back to something very pyruvate-like and run it through what process? It's going to run it through electron transport chain and Krebs cycle, and it's going to make a lot of ATP from it. But if you're in really, really bad shape, you might have made a lot of that. How long is it going to take your body to run it all back through Krebs cycle? It may take a day or two, and you may be really sore for a couple of days. As you get in better shape, your body is becoming more efficient. Your body can pump more oxygen to your muscles if you're in shape. Your heart is stronger. Your lungs breathe deeper. You actually grow new blood vessels into your muscles. So you have more oxygen in your muscles, which means you don't have as much need to ever do what in the first place? What do you not ever do if you're in good shape? Anaerobic respiration. So you don't ever need to do fermentation. So therefore, you don't get sore as much. The better shape you get in, the less likely it is that you're ever going to need to do that kind of thing. Let me turn that off right quick.